Hello. Like most people, I've sat through my fair share of abysmal PowerPoint presentations. And as a school teacher, I'm very conscious of the fact that students end up sitting through hundreds, possibly thousands of PowerPoint presentations throughout their academic career. And so many of them are just awful. So I thought what I'd do in this presentation is share with you 5 top tips for improving almost any PowerPoint presentation that you do. So 5 top tips. Top tip, first of all, number 1, is ditch the templates. Now, one of the things that most people do when they start a PowerPoint presentation is they come up here to design and they have a little look through all of these wonderful designs here, many of which haven't changed for 6, 7, 8 years. I'm currently using Office 2016, so these are the templates for Office 2016 if you haven't seen them already. And apart from 1 or 2 new ones, like that one there, many of them are just the same as ones we've seen for years. And of course the problem is the limited number of PowerPoint presentation templates you have means that the more presentations people, such as students, are going to sit through, the more often they will see those same templates and they become dull and stale very quickly. So my first top tip is don't use the template. Use your own, create your own. It's very simple. If we go to View at the top there and then we click on Slide Master, what we're looking at here is not the PowerPoint presentation at all, but if you like, it's almost a separate application. This is a PowerPoint template designer. So we're not putting any content in here. This is just creating the design, the look, just as you would choose a design from the top. You'll see that the first slide at the top is a lot larger than the other ones. This is the overall master slide, and any changes you make to this slide for the background color or images or font styles, anything like that, those changes will affect every different type of layout that your presentation could use. And you'll see underneath that main master slide there are the various types of template layout. So you've got your title slides, you've got your title and content slides, you've got your subtitles or subsection titles, you've got your side-by-side content layouts. Now remember, this is not the actual presentation. You would put no content into this. This is simply the template designer. If I close the master view by clicking the red cross just at the top there, back to the presentation itself, you can see that we do always have a choice of layouts for every slide we choose. There's our title, title and content, section header, 2x2 content, all those sort of things. So you can obviously change the layout of a slide. But what defines just how large these boxes are, where they're positioned on the screen, what size font we've got here, what style of font, what decides that? Well, that is our slide master. View Slide Master, and if we scroll up a little bit to the top, we can see that again there's our overall slide master, there's our title, our main title and content subsection, and there's our side by side. So if we were to make a change to the font or style of this layout, that change would then it would affect every possible slide we use in future that uses this layout. So let's make a couple of very quick changes. So I'm going to just change the slide master. You can often get away with just doing that, but I'll go into more ways of doing this in another video. So what I'm going to do then is just zoom out a little bit and let's just change the background color. That's a really quick thing we can do. So right click on the background. I'm just going to go for a solid fill, and I'm going to do anything too fancy in this video. I'm going to keep it quite simple. That's a little bright perhaps, so we'll have a bit of a darker one. Let's have a dark blue there. Then what am I going to do? I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and in fact I'm going to go to the Insert menu and click on Shapes. I'm going to choose the rectangle tool there. I'm going to draw a rectangle like that. I'm going to right click on it and edit points, so I'm going to drag that out a little bit and give it a bit of a curve perhaps like that, and then I'm going to bring that off to the side like that. Colours, well, probably change it to a sort of a lighter blue like that, but I don't want the outline colour, so we'll get rid of the outline colour. And in fact, I think I might even blur the edges. So I'm going to soften the edges a little bit so it's a little bit fainter. Something like that, perhaps that'll do. And of course, I'm going to send that to the back. Now, of course, it's quite obvious that the text here is going to be no good at all, but hey, who says that we have to have these boxes in this location? Not at all. In fact, I'm going to change them around. I'm going to put my content up here, and in fact what I'm going to do is take my title and I'm going to rotate that title 90 degrees, and I'm going to stick that on the left hand side. So we'll just pop that there like that. Let's move that off so we can see exactly where the edge of the slide is, so make it a little bit smaller. There we are. Let's make the font size a bit smaller so that'll fit. Let's center align it. Let's change the font style so it's white, and we can even change the font itself. Let's change that to let's choose a nice one. I think probably, yes, I'm quite fond of this one. This is one of my new favourites at the moment, Bebas New. So I'll do that. Now, of course, we need to change the text over here as well. I know I'm going quite quickly because I want to show you just how easy all these 5 top tips are. But I realise that some of the things I'm doing here might be new for some people, so I will cover these things in another tutorial at a later date. So I'm going to bring that in there like that. And in fact what I'm going to do is copy that, paste it, there we go, and then I'm going to rotate that around and have that on the other side a little bit like that. So you see, I mean, in just a few seconds there, well, a minute perhaps or two, I've made a few changes. It's not going to be the most fantastic of style, but it will certainly make a difference. So once I've done all that, I need to go back up to View, and I can switch from Slide Master to Normal. I can just go straight in there. And although it looks obviously a little bit now as a bit odd with all these bits sticking out here, of course what we have to remember is that's not what we'll actually see when we play the presentation. If I was to change the layout here to a title and content, there we are. So you can see my title on the left hand side there. Let's put in a title there. Welcome to my presentation. My first point here, my second point here. And of course the secret is out, I can't type. My second point here, there we are. So what I'm going to do is hit F5 on my keyboard, and of course what we can see is the presentation now full screen, and it's not fantastic. I'm not claiming that this is one of my best templates by any stretch of the imagination, but what we can see is that straight away it looks different. I've got different fonts, I've got different colours, I've got different things going on, and that's just within a few seconds. If we were to have minutes or 20 minutes or whatever, we could come up with an amazing style. And if you don't believe me, if you're not convinced, then please do hit subscribe and bookmark this site, whether you're looking at the web page or you're looking at YouTube. Bookmark it, come back, because I will, I promise, put out a video quite soon which explains in far more detail how to produce some really cracking presentation templates. Do you know people don't use the word cracking as often as they should do? So yes, I will do that, and if you bookmark or subscribe, then you will be one of the first to come across that. So my first point then is avoid the built-in templates. Avoid them, and instead take a little bit of time, take a few minutes to create your own template. That's the first point. My second point is about making points, and that is these bullet points. I loathe bullet points. Bullet points are awful. Well, they're okay in some situations, but I don't think the PowerPoint is the right place for bullet points, because what they tend to do is encourage people to write loads and loads and loads of rubbish. My third point here, people look at this and think, crikey, my slide's almost completely empty. I've got to make another 6 points at least before I get to the bottom of this panel. People do that. People end up filling the slide for the sake of filling the slide. People end up putting lots of points down. Now, the problem is, and there have been studies about this, the problem is that when people see a number of bullet points, what they instinctively know is that people are going to talk about those points one at a time, probably in great detail. They might listen to the first one, and then after you've finished talking about the first bullet point, they'll think, right, that took him 5 minutes. He's got another 7 bullet points to go through, which means I've got over half an hour of sitting here looking at this slide. It is not a good way to start your presentation, because people will be put off straight away. So get rid of the bullet points. Now that's pretty simple. I mean, you can just simply click the bullet point button there and get rid of them. But that looks just like a paragraph of text now. So what can we do instead? Well, rather than actually using this text frame, what I often do is I simply get rid of the placeholder, and instead I will go to Insert, Text Box, and I'll just put a text box wherever I want my text to be. So let's say that my first bullet point was about templates. So I might just simply write the word templates, and then we'll center align that. We'll change the font. We'll make that nice and large, and we'll change the color of it as well. So there we are. So we'll have templates there. Now what I'm going to do is copy that to there, copy it to there, copy it to there. So my second point is about bullets. My third point is going to be about fonts. My fourth point is going to be about something to do with notes. And my fifth point, which we'll have over here, is to do with something white. So now I can move these around, and what I've got is, instead of 5 bullet points with tons of text on, is I've got those 5 words spread out a little bit. Now the audience doesn't even know what those points are. If I write the bullet points out, I'm inclined to write a sentence or a phrase. And that will take away some of the surprise, some of the spontaneity of what you're going to say to the audience. They'll be reading the points. They'll probably get a pretty good idea of what those points are, which means they don't even need to listen to you now, because they've got the idea. They might lose some of the details you have to offer, but they've got the general idea from looking at the points. And after all, they're going to forget most of what you say anyway, so if they've read it, well, that's pretty much all they need to remember. However, with just putting these words out, first of all, you've broken up the template. It's not a simple list. It's not a boring telephone directory or shopping list that you're going through. Now it's a little bit more spontaneous. It's intriguing because they've only put one word down there. So they don't really know what you're going to say about that. They may guess, but they have to listen to you in order to know what it is you're going to say. They may be right, but unless they hear you, they won't know. So getting rid of the bullet points, instead sticking these words around in a variety of different ways, makes a big difference. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually pull the text box off to the side. We'll left align that, and I'll actually make the background of the text box a different color. So let's say I'm going to have that orange, and in that case we're going to have our text probably black, something like that. And then what I might do, I'm going to get rid of this title on the left hand side for now, and the placeholder, get rid of that completely. And I might have this one pulled off to the left, and we'll right align that one, and then again what we'll do is we'll color it with that shape, and we'll fill it like that. So there we are, we've got points coming off. Let's play the presentation. It just makes it look a little bit more interesting. It makes it look a little bit more spontaneous, and you're not giving away the content. of your presentation. And that's really, really important, because if you give away the content of the presentation, or you let PowerPoint do the presenting for you, what's the point of you standing there? You're just simply the person who clicks the button, which really isn't what role you want. So that's the second point, no bullets. The third one you can see I'm already starting to use, and that is large fonts. It is ridiculous if you're using size 18 or size 12, 14, even 20, 24. These are not the font sizes you should be using. I've used size 88 there. And when I come out full screen, size 88, yeah, it strikes, it's striking, it's obvious, it's clear. I would generally say you don't want to go below about 50 or 60. Very often, when I'm producing a PowerPoint presentation, the smallest font I use is size 60. I have seen out there people suggesting rules of size 30. Let's have a look at what size 30 is. Let's bring this down to size 30. Now you can see that compared to the fonts I've used, that is pathetic, that is tiny, it's lost in there. It is the tiny fish swimming amongst this great big lake here. It's tiny, it's ridiculous, we don't need that. These fonts here could be even bigger, we could make those up. Look, that's 138. There we are, 115. I think 150, I was making 3 points on a slide. Let's get rid of the one about fonts for the moment. Let's get rid of the one about notes. Let's just have this one here, and what I'll do is I'll copy the format of that across. I'll right align that. Again, I use the format painter there, which is a fantastic tool. If you're not familiar with it, make sure you are. I think I've already done a video about the format painter. If not, I will do one very shortly. I'll check on that one afterwards. But there we are. There's another one. I've just simply put those 3 lines on there, 3 bullet points. And all of the background, I don't particularly like that background. That was a bit of a rush job there, but I didn't want to waste your time. But actually, that's looking quite nice. That's looking a lot more interesting to look at than some of the boring traditional presentations people put up there. It's different. It shows that you've taken the time and trouble to think about your audience and to put something together that is unique, that is different. You're not just a sheep that clicks on design and follows the traditional templates and layouts. You've got more thought than that. You've got more respect for your audience than that. You respect them enough to have taken a little bit of time and trouble to do something different, something unique, something they haven't seen before, and audiences appreciate that. And when I talk about audiences, I don't just mean in businesses or in conference, no, I do mean in schools. Students are your audience. If you're a teacher, your students are an audience, and they deserve for your presentation to have impact, to have had thought gone into the design, and not for you to use the same tools and layouts and designs as every other teacher in the school, in the county, in the country is using. So that's my third point then, fonts. Big fonts, minimum size 60, 80 to 100, 120 is absolutely great. So my fourth point, I couldn't count there, my fourth point, it flows really on from having these great big fonts. Because of course, if you've got huge great fonts, where are you going to put all of the writing about each of these points and what they mean? Well, of course, a good presenter knows what he's talking about, or indeed what she's talking about. So if I've got the word templates up there, I know what I want to say about templates, and the same about bullets and white. I know what I want to say about that. I understand the point. But of course, it might well be that the point itself you're talking about includes a lot of detail, measurements, statistics, numbers, facts, names, things that maybe on the spur of the moment you might not remember. You don't want to have to rely on your memory. That's absolutely fine. So rather than putting all of the notes, all of the points you want to make on the presentation, where they'll be read by your audience and then you will be ignored, come down to the bottom of your screen. Now along the bottom we've got this little bar. You'll see that as I put my mouse on that little thin bar there, it turns into an arrow pointing up and down. So I'm looking at the bottom of the screen now. I'm moving my mouse around so that you can see that there. So right at the bottom in the middle, my mouse has turned into that double-headed white arrow. If I click that and I drag up, I have this section here. You'll see it says click to add notes. And this is the presenter notes section. Now, in this section, you can write as much text as you want. You can take each of these points that you've written above. So let's write templates, and you can put your text in here, whatever you want to say. So whatever, and I really can't type, whatever you want to say goes here, and your audience will never know and never see it unless you want. I'll explain that. Now, what I'll do here is I'll just copy that and I'll just paste it a few times so we can have some text in there. Now, in this presenter notes section, you can write as much as you want. You could write a script, you could write just a series of bullet points, you could write whatever you like. And then when it comes to your presentation, as we see, those presenter notes are not visible. What's the point of them? Well, if we go up to File and then we go to Print. Now, normally, under this section here, printing what, we have full page slides selected. Now you can see, if we print this off, we will get a full slide per sheet of paper. And some people do actually print those off and then stand in front of their presentation looking down at the slides. That's really not much help. Instead, if we change that from full page slides to notes pages, this is what you can print off as a presenter. On each page, you will have a small version of the slide, so you can see on each page what is going to be on the slide the audience is looking at. And underneath, this is the important bit, there are your presenter notes. Which means instead of standing there in front of your own presentation with your back to the audience reading all the text out from the slides, as though your audience weren't capable of reading text themselves, you can stand there quite confident, not looking at the screen, facing your audience and reading from your own presenter notes. You know what's on the slide, you can see that there, but you're reading your script, or you're using the prompt notes however you work, reading the notes or just referring to statistics if that's all you want to put in there. This is entirely up to you. You can put whatever you want in this section. So however many points you want to make or put down to remind yourself during the presentation, you put them in there, and then you're taking away the need for putting so much text in this section here, because all the details now go down here in this section. So your audience is now forced to listen to you because they don't know what these points are going to mean, and you don't have to worry about forgetting what you're going to say or forgetting a particular statistic. If you're not very confident about standing up in front of people and talking, then you don't have to worry about forgetting what you're going to say, because it's all down here in presenter notes. And that one point alone will make a huge difference to the quality of your presentation. My fifth point almost needs no demonstration, because my fifth point is about white. And what do I mean? I simply mean get rid of all the white on your screen. I mean, obviously it's okay if you want to use white as a definite colour, as a highlight colour, for example. Let's put these shapes here, for example, in white. And then if I press F5, that looks quite good. You know, we're okay with that. We might want to put a bit of a shadow on these perhaps, just to make it look a little bit less flat, so we can see that these are standing out from the background. There we are, that looks a little bit better. But generally speaking, I would say get rid of the white. The reason is that when you start a new slide, whatever the design, and we're talking here about the designs that are built in, you can see that many of these designs have a huge white section still. Not all of them, granted, but many do. And even some of these ones, like this one here, the first slide for this design here, if I just come down here and I insert a new slide, The title slides of these designs, they don't have any white on them. But the moment you start going into title and content, you've obviously got my shapes of the background, so ignore those, but you can probably still see we have a lot of white on the screen. And in fact, white is not a good colour for doing a projected presentation. It's too harsh, it's too glaring, and it becomes uncomfortable for the audience to look at after a while. If they're sat there for quite some time looking at a harsh white glare, especially if you're using a very contrasting colour like black against the white, it becomes glaring, it becomes tiring, and if your audience start yawning or suffering from headaches, then quite possibly it might be that your presentation sucks, but it could also be the fact that you are tiring them out by making them stare at these bright white, bright contrasting colours. Obviously, I'm talking about bright colours. I have some bright colours here, but I wouldn't be on this slide for too long. I would then move on to another slide that perhaps is the inverse. So on my next slide, I might possibly have blue text boxes here and a yellow background. I might do something completely different, I don't know. But certainly getting rid of the white. It looks as though you have filled the screen in a good way, and rather than just sort of forgetting to fill a certain section, forgetting to put something down, not having enough to say. So making the fonts big, using bold colours, using the presenter notes, getting rid of bullet points, and just avoiding built-in designs. All of those points will, I think, make a very big difference. There's far more that we could talk about, far more that we could do. But if all you want to do is those 5 points I've mentioned, those alone, if you put the time in to get them right, will make a massive difference to the quality not only of your PowerPoint presentations, but of your presentation, the way you present what it is you're going to say. And your audiences, I'm quite convinced, will appreciate the time and the effort that you've made just to do that little bit extra. I hope this was useful for you. If it is, then please do subscribe. As I say, I will do another video shortly that goes into more detail about how to produce these templates, really good quality templates, quite quickly and easily, and I'll cover some of the other points as well. So please do subscribe so that you pick that up as soon as it's live. If you have any questions at all, please do leave a comment below or feel free to drop me an email. And if there's any points or suggestions or comments, again, please do leave them below. That would be fantastic. Much appreciated. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.